All right, it is 5:02 on this Monday evening, January 23rd, 2023. Welcome everyone to the regular meeting of the City of Cape Girardeau City Council. We will begin with our invocation and pledge of allegiance. The invocation will be led by Pastor Phil Roop of Bethel Assembly. Thank you, Pastor. Please rise.
Just checking in. Well, let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for the way you lead us and you guide us. Your word tells us that. And God, we thank you for the day you've made. God, we will rejoice and be glad in it as your word also directs us to do, God. We thank you, Lord, that you are concerned with the affairs of men, God. What is important to us, God, really matters to you. And God, I thank you today, God, for our city council and for our mayor, God. I pray that you would give them great wisdom as they make decisions concerning the life and the affairs of the city of Cape Girardeau. God, far be it from us to imagine, God, that we can make the incredible decisions that need to be made for the lives around us, God, without your counsel, without your direction, God. I remember, Lord, that in a critical time of your journey here on earth, that the disciples said, Lord, who can we turn to? For you alone have the words of life. So I thank you for the words of life that you can give us today, God. I thank you, Lord, that you would certainly gather around us as decisions are made. I pray that you would continue to protect our first responders, God, Chief Wes Blair, God, and our police officers, God, Chief Randy Morrison and our fire department, our sheriff's department, and highway patrol. God, keep them healthy and safe, God, as they protect our citizens. And God, just hasten also to ask you to continue to protect and guide the members of our military, and many of those that are from this local area. God, would you put your hand upon them? God, help us to navigate this journey, this new year, as we have just experienced the 23rd day of January. And God, there's a lot left, but it's going to go so quick. God, would you help us to navigate that we may be a blessing to those around us, God, that we would encourage those. And I pray, God, that would just flow from us this day. And God, I ask us also, Lord, this evening that you would just remind us, God, that you gave yourself, Jesus, you gave yourself on a cross for us, that we might not only have life abundant here according to the book of John, but eternal life also. So help us to be reminded of that, because eternity beckons us each day and surround us this evening. We pray that in the name of Christ, and everyone says, amen.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have no study sessions tonight. We have several presentations. We will start with a presentation for National Gun Violence Survivor Week. I was going to call Ms. Leslie Washington up, but she's prompt as always, and whoever else. Thank you, ladies. Okay. And I am sorry to have to read this proclamation, but I am honored to do so. And it states, whereas 1,288 Americans are killed by gun violence and over 2,312 are wounded by guns in Missouri. And whereas by early February, more Americans are killed with guns than are killed in our peer countries in an entire calendar year. And whereas 58% of American adults or someone they care for has experienced gun violence in their lifetime, demonstrating the reach and impact gun violence has in communities across America. And whereas guns are the leading cause of death among children and teens in Missouri, and an average of 116 children and teens die by guns every year, of which 34% are suicides and 60% are homicides. And whereas Americans in cities across the nation are working to end senseless violence by advocating for common sense gun safety legislation, and whereas by commemorating National Gun Violence Survivors Week on February 1st to February 7, cities across America will raise awareness about gun violence and honor the lives stolen by gun violence. And whereas we renew our commitment to reduce gun violence and pledge to do all we can to keep firearms out of the wrong hands and encourage responsible gun ownership to help keep our communities safe. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Stacy Kinder, Mayor of the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri, do hereby proclaim the week of February 1st through February 7th, 2023 as National Gun Violence Survivor Week in the City of Cape Girardeau, and encourage all citizens to support their community's efforts to prevent the tragic effects of gun violence and to honor and value human lives. Thank you all for the incredible work that you all do in this issue. Ms. Washington, would you like to say?
Sure. We take that time, the week of February 1st to February the 7th, 2023, to honor with action by amplifying the voices of survivors that have been impacted by gun violence. As we know, it doesn't just impact the family and the friends, it also impacts the community as a whole in which that victim may live in. So I just say thank you to the mayor and the city of Cape for honoring us with this proclamation. Thank you.
No, we're not done yet. We got
Got a
I've got a-
picture.
Is there- All right, thank you all. And we will now have a presentation from the Convention and Visitors Bureau and Ms. Brenda Newbern.
Well, thank you so much for having me today. Now, I provided you with some information. I'm not going to go through both of these because I would have you here all night, but I wanted you to have all the details that back up just the overview that I'm going to share with you. The Convention and Visitors Bureau, the mission of our Visitors Bureau, which is called Visit Cape, and it is a Convention and Visitors Bureau, is to promote the city of Cape Girardeau for the purpose of economic development through increased business and recreational tourism. The four methods that we use to do that are marketing, and it's not just in local, it's regional, digital, print, public relations and direct sales, group tours, and conferences. Partnership, and those are both public and private partnerships, partnerships that allow us to work with our city members in order to make the city grow. Service, provide visitors with the information that they need so they can enjoy Cape Girardeau. Focus, seeking to find the hidden gems of Cape Girardeau and increase the visits through them. That's working with Parks Recreation. It's also working with new businesses like the Pottery or the Gorge, and helping them to understand that we can come together and cause events and activities that will allow for people to enjoy Cape Girardeau all the longer and all the more. The vision is for Visit Cape will become a leader in our destination development by creating new public and private partnerships within our community to enhance Cape Girardeau's position as not only a regional hub for Southeast Missouri, but become one of the best cities to live, work, and visit along the Mississippi River. The common basic guideposts for decision-making, the standards against which we judge all of our actions, our core value include honesty and integrity in all that we do, teamwork and unity reflected in each member of our staff, ambassadors, planning committees, executive committees, and as we work to achieve our marketing plan. A commitment to organizational, professional, and personal standards of excellence, and services that reflect quality, creativity, and innovation. The events that we have brought to Cape Girardeau, and I'm going to say this right off the bat, we don't bring them along, we bring them in collaboration with other members of the city. But we brought volleyball tournaments, basketball tournaments, soccer tournaments. We also have worked with the Sportsplex, Shawnee Complex, Osage Center, and the Show Me Center, just to mention a few. We are bringing the Governor's Conference on Tourism to Cape Girardeau this year. We're bringing General Federation of Women's Clubs, the Motorcycle Cannonball, Juneteenth, the Riverfront Fall Festival, and we've already booked the Corvette Caravan and talked to them for 2024. Shipyard, Muddy River Marathon, Babe Ruth Baseball World Series. And the first event that I ever booked when I took the job 8 years ago was the LST 325. Some of you already remember that. That ship sat at our riverfront for, I think, about 2 weeks, and thousands of people literally came to town every day. So I gave them a call. I thought, it's about time they can get us back on their roster. And so we're actually going to be looked at, and we are in the line for maybe having another visit from LST 325. We've booked an overnight motor coach for October of 2023 out of the Branson area, and we're excited about that, working on that tour right now in the itinerary. Starting to look at work with Nashville. We feel like that'll be a good opportunity for us to get with some of the receptive operators there and start getting motor coach tours and visits coming between the two of us. The American Queen, the American Cruise Lines are already booked for about 12 visits so far. And hopefully with the mayor's letter from Viking, we reached out and we will be trying to get Viking to be on their docket. Because when I looked back in April of 2020 and reached out, Cape Girardeau wasn't on the list of stops on that river cruise. So we're working to make sure that maybe they will be another stop for us. When you look over like 2022, we had 24 boat dockings that brought us 2,000 people. And by having those 2,000 people, if each of them spent only $44.80, that's an $89,000 economic impact to Cape Girardeau. So I saw some bags that I'm sure had more than the 44, and I did see some that didn't do much shopping, but I think we had a very good impact on our like River Heritage Museum and our places that they do visit. We've got events like Twisted Cat Fishing Tournament that has been held every year. That tournament started out with 25 boats. It is now over 100 boats that are in that tournament every year. And he is so excited about being a part. He was trying to figure out how he could be a part of the Riverfront Fall Festival and actually have the weigh-in during our Fall Festival. So far that hasn't worked, but we'll keep working with him to make his tournament grow. We just got King Catfish Tournament, which is a Cabela tournament sponsored, and the owner of that is new, but he had his first event last year during Shipyard, and now he's called back and said he wants to do a 2-day tournament while he's here in 2024. The Bicentennial Mural Project was something that we collaborated with Barb and Aaron at Painted Wren Gallery. And if you haven't been to Jefferson City and visited the Truman Building where it's now hanging, that is something Cape Girardeau can be very proud of because it represents us in the whole state of Missouri. And we were part of making that happen. Things that I do to make sure that the relationships are strong for our Visitors Bureau is I'm a member of the Missouri Association of Conventions and Bureaus Board, where I serve as the treasurer. The Missouri Travel Alliance Board, where I serve as secretary, and the Upper Midwest Convention and Visitors Bureaus Board, where I represent Missouri and I'm able to connect with other tourism directors out of Iowa, Minnesota, North and South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, and Illinois. And hopefully that will give me the opportunity to bring the UMCVB conference to Cape Girardeau. That's my ultimate goal. Old Town Cape Board as an ex officio, and Red Hawks Club United Way Investment Committee as the chair. I'll also be visiting the representatives and state representatives and legislators in February as we have our Capital Days on Tourism. We go up there and we'll meet everybody and talk about the importance and value of tourism on a legislative level so that they can continue to support us. And the Governor Parsons and Lieutenant Governor Kehoe right now are very much supporters of tourism. So we're very fortunate at this time to have legislators on staff that really care about tourism. So that's good for Cape Girardeau. A measure that I often have and always have is our hotel motel tax. I wait patiently every month to get that to make sure that we are meeting the expectations for the city. Overall, our tax receipts have been increasing. Even during the pandemic, we were able to do what other small communities weren't able to do by collaborating with the promoters that were coming in and make sure we were using protocols to stay clean and healthy and continue to promote the city by having tournaments. Some of those tournaments that were able to come here are now still coming here. They did not stop. They're bringing their tournaments into town and they are supporting us. Over this last 6 to 7 year period, we only asked for budget-wise a 3% increase. But I will say that that budget's due February 1, and I'm asked for a little more. I mean, I think we've had a record increase for last year. And so with the inflation rate at 6.5, hopefully you all can support us for a little more on that. The Missouri Division of Tourism's research numbers for 2021 show that Cape Girardeau County has over $200 million in NAICS spending, and that's the tourism market for taxes that's being taken out. We had 4,308 jobs supplied and over $3 million in property tax paid. In closing, there's ways that we try to gauge and I try to track and see how we're doing as a Convention and Visitors Bureau. I have a TSI Tourism Sentiment Index that will listen to any time a comment is made about Cape Girardeau, Missouri. And we are doing wonderful. To be a town our size, my account manager actually has a hard time believing is how we get comments about our town, even across and measure up across the world stage. We have SEM, which is search engine marketing data that we do through Google Analytics, and that just changed. They now go to a GA4, and don't ask me what that is, but that's the new analytics that we use. And as they explained it and were sharing the new analytics, I was looking behind and I could see where Nashville has been doing a lot of clicks on us, and I was pretty happy with that. So we got Nashville and of course Chicago, Illinois, which is a big key market for us. The last thing, we have Bold Marketing, and you'll see Bold Marketing is our marketing agency, and they do all the tracking for our social media analytics. They have done we have had over 805 new users added to the website, and we ran over 120 ads in over 35 print and digital publications. So for FY24, we're just getting ready to start a new campaign. We were using watercolor as our print and digital ad campaign. We have a new campaign that is getting ready to come out, and I think everyone will be excited to see that and pleased with it. And so looking forward to doing greater things in FY24. We also are working on a direct campaign with Southeast Missouri State University. We're able to email out to the parents and starting to email out to some students. You know, you have to go through a process and get the ability to get those email addresses, but we're working with that in collaboration with the university. And the more we can get the students to come out and visit Cape Girardeau and become a part of Cape Girardeau, we put things on the website like go to the games and, you know, put the schedules out there and get the parents to know what's going on. Because as you all know, as college students, we might not tell our parents that there's anything to do in Cape Girardeau. Just take them to the mall and spend a little money and then send them back home. So we're working on that. And our visitor's guide request is data that we use each month. And right now, I shared with you in that packet just what we've done in January. We've already had 249 requests. Wisconsin, Ohio, Missouri, Illinois, Iowa, Michigan, Minnesota, Kansas, and Ohio and Indiana are all in double digits for requesting our data. They want our visitors guides, and sometimes they want that print, and they have the option of taking it digital, but they're requesting it, and that's all good news. Finally, our newsletter has an open rate of 32.5%, where industry standard is 31.7%, and our newsletter has a click-through rate of 2.3%, where the industry standard is 1.39. So looking to continue to do great things for the city of Cape Girardeau. And if you all have any questions, I'll be happy to try and entertain them.
That was a lot of great stuff. Anybody want to?
Brenda, more of a
Questions,
comment and a question in one. You feel like with the attraction, not the tax dollars, because we know inflation can mess with the tax dollars, right? But what about as far as the traffic in general? Are we pre-pandemic levels and even further?
We are more than pre-pandemic levels. I have the board members that are on there, the Drury companies and Mid-America, about those numbers. And what they say is they're seeing more people. The rate with the inflation, with the dollars,
Yeah.
it really isn't the thing that's kicking it up. It's the number of people that are staying there. If you look right now, we just had we have a tournament committee meeting where we have representatives that come and join us. And right now, already, March, every weekend in February and March are already booked and already considered what they call blackout dates, and the weekend of graduation already. So it's the people. It's the people coming. We have, it's just the people. I mean, we had people staying in Marion.
Yeah.
to
Well,
come
thank
to
you,
us.
Brenda, for everything. And whenever I've referred people to you and you've worked with them, great. And I appreciate everything you do.
Yeah, well, thank you, because that's what it takes. That's what it takes, and that's what we're here for. So if you have a group, your wedding, family reunion, it does not matter. We're not particular. We will take and work with anyone, everybody, to get them to come to Cape Girardeau and have a good experience.
You mentioned several times, states in the upper Midwest and the appeal there. And it occurred to me, actually, I think the University of Iowa golf team was passing through this weekend, and they were out playing some golf and just strolling around like it was, an early summer day. Because for them,
Yes, it was.
it's winter here, but it's really winter up there. And so we're kind of a beach vacation for some people here in January.
Oh, yeah.
And then I guess, there's plenty of catfish. We can have
Catfish starting
we can
forever.
have multiple. That was interesting. Man, so much. This is going to take a while to go through all of this material, but
Yes,
thank you.
I gave
for
you
the
all enough
presentation.
that you can dream about Visit Cape, and we like that.
Yeah.
You know?
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Where's that pen? There it is. All right, next we have communications and reports from council. Dan, I'm going to break with tradition and butt in because I had I wanted to toot the horn of someone here on the council. I'll get to that in a second. First, I would just say that I read today that Governor Parson announced some appointments to various boards and commissions, and our very own Ms. D'Amica Randall has been appointed to the Missouri Housing Development Commission. And did you know that? Okay. I didn't want to, it occurred, I didn't think I was surprising you with that, but yes. Yeah, and I did have to look it up just to make sure I had my facts straight, but it says it's dedicated to strengthening communities and the lives of Missourians through the financing, development, and preservation of affordable housing. So thrilled to know that you received that appointment. And then too, I would just mention that our newly elected representative for the city of Cape Girardeau, John Voss, has been appointed to the House Budget Committee. So just wanted to point out that we in the area are very well represented at the state level. And that's only going to be great for the city. So congratulations.
All right. I'm going to jump in and actually I'm going to retire my statement, actually. I've been saying this now for several years. This is going to, I know, this is going to be my last time. So to kick, I wasn't here for the first meeting of 2023, so I'm just going to kick off my
Changing it up.
Changing it up. Just, and for here on forward and everything, we've been through an extraordinary couple of years, both economically and health-wise in this country. And I have every meeting started out by encouraging people just to take their health seriously and take the health of others around them seriously. And so just for one last time, I'm going to stop bugging people about it, but please just make sure that you keep the health of you and your loved ones and your neighbors all at the forefront of your mind. Get yourself vaccinated, boosted, wear a mask, socially distance, and wash your hands. It comes down to some pretty simple stuff. But other than that, that's my only communication report.
Is anyone down there?
Mayor, I've got a
Yes,
couple.
please.
So today I met a fireman at physical therapy. I messed up my knee, getting some physical therapy, and I said, what station are you at? He said, 1. I said, how long you been here? He said, I went through the cadet program. I was the first cadet, and Kenny probably knows the story, but I had not heard this story, and I really thought it was amazing. He was a cadet, first cadet, and I guess our whole our fire department's history. And I said, well, they started a whole cadet program? Yeah, they started a cadet program. They said because of, how much they liked me and my background and information. And I said, well, how'd this all come about? He said, did you move here from Tennessee where you lived? He said, no. I was actually the manager of the meat department at Sam's. And the firemen are constantly coming in, grocery shopping and buying things. And he said, they just were like, hey, we really like you. You've got a great personality. We think you'd be a great fit for the fire department. Now, we all know our history with police and fire and getting people and some of those spots that we've had. And so sure enough, after back and forth, they created this cadet and brought him in doing the EMS and fire training all in an 8-month period. And I just thought it was an amazing story of our firemen going above and beyond, just not for public safety, but to reach out and find great people and a great fit. And he was phenomenal, man. I was really pleased to meet him. I let him tell me that whole story first before I told him that I was a city councilman. I said, I'll be talking about that tonight. So really just made my day. And kudos to Randy Morris, Chief Morris back there, says many things about your leadership. So thank you. One other thing that I want to bring up is I want to urge residents to be extremely careful in where you're getting your news on social media. It's really been bothering me extremely, and the mayor knows this. There have been 2 incidents recently where sites are listening to scanners and they are reporting the call-in information of a call-in. And we all know that a call-in and the results of what that event really was are 2 completely different things. And what these sites do not do is they do not go back and retract. And they've allowed residents to get upset and worried and reach out to people like us, which I'm glad to talk to, but it's very bothersome to have to tell that false information is being reported as fact on social media. And I'm extremely tired of it. I think that it doesn't help the jobs that Randy Morris and West Blair are doing when we have groups and sites undermining what's going on in our community. So I would just urge all of us to be very careful of the information that we are distributing or that we are relying on. And if you ever have questions, I'm sure in this great city of ours, are places that you can go and get actual facts other than social media. That'd probably be right, Nicolette, Wes, Randy? Okay. So there we go. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Anyone else? No? All right. We will move on then to items for discussion. First, we will have a report from the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Good evening, Council and Mrs. Mayor, Dr. Haskins. So the last meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission was January the 11th, and these are the items that were on the agenda. There was a request of applicant BK Investment Group LLC to rezone property to R4, medium density multifamily residential, upon annexation if approved. That recommendation was tabled. There were 8 in favor of tabling that recommendation, none in opposition, and no one abstained. The next item on the agenda was the Meadows of Whispering Oaks, third subdivision record plat located at 130 Frogs Leap. The plat subdivided a lot to create one new lot. It was recommended for approval. 8 voted in favor, no opposed, and no one abstained. And then next item, Stevenson subdivision record plat located at 600 Lewis Street. The plat re-subdivided 2 lots and a part of a third lot to create one new lot. And it was recommended to approve. The vote was 8 in favor, none in opposition, and no one abstained. And then finally, city staff brought to us Chapter 30 amendments regarding marijuana as it relates to the new recreation that has been passed and how we needed to update our policies. We previously had policies regarding the dispensaries, the medical dispensaries, so now we included updates for the recreational facilities. And that was everything that we talked about. Any questions?
Mr. Grazer, I have one question.
Yeah.
Can you advise council as to why the BK investment request was tabled?
We felt as though there should probably have been some discussion between developer and the neighboring families that reside there, on knowing that both were in the county and that the developer was requesting it become annexed. We did not feel like they had adequate notice and that discussion had occurred between all the parties. I personally like to see conversation in advance, so when there's a meeting, there's not surprises. And so we tabled it, encouraging conversation to see if they could maybe understand one another a little bit better. Okay.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Greaser.
Mhm.
We would next ask if there is anyone here to appear as an advisory board applicant. If so, you may come forward and introduce yourself. All right, no? All right, moving on. We next have an update on the Urban Deer Management Program here in Cape Girardeau.
Hello, council. Okay. We are concluding our second urban hunt, and it has actually gone fairly well. The city deer control began October 22nd and was completed December 23rd with a harvest of 4 deer. May not seem like a lot. Possible reasons for the low deer count and activity. This fall, there was some extreme drought, high temperatures, resulting in obviously not many people hunting. You're just not going to get hunters hunting in that kind of weather typically. Couple concerns that I was able to talk to with hunters. Being required to take a doe first. That was one of their concerns. Second was they were observing deer on a lot of private properties that were located near a lot of the city properties. So going back and forth. Weather was an obvious concern. Number one complaint is not being in the heaviest deer populated areas, which we know we're not in the heart of where the deer are congregating mostly. Probably to help control these populations we definitely need to broaden the scope of these areas that are being hunted. A lot of cities are doing that where they're expanding out into a lot of the, more residential areas. Change the options of the deer harvest. In the way we have it now, we have it set up to where you can take 3 deer, but you have to take a buck first. That was one of the complaints. Also was change the order to where you can take any deer. At this point, we're here to control it. We're not too worried about trophy bucks or anything like that. So that was another one of the complaints is if they saw bucks, they weren't seeing does. And if they were seeing does, they were somewhere else farther away. They couldn't take shots at them. So they were being safe in that sense. So keep the sequence of the dates and times like what we had it this fall, keep that the same. That would actually work out very well because it does keep these areas where when someone's able to hunt it, then it gives it time to relax and allow for the game to come back into those areas. And of course, one of the things that we need to consider is expanding to more city properties. And I know we do have more city properties. I've got several maps that we can look at down the road. Couple things, 3 things to consider is either increase the locations, take it possibly to a citywide hunt. And if, that's not acceptable, then another option, which I don't think that we want to do, would be terminate that because we did have a low count. But again, that's kind of like fishing. You're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days. Couple things that we've looked at that if we were to expand this was looking at the expansion of the city properties versus private properties. Continue with the city properties to where if someone's going to hunt our city properties that we continue with our mandatory meetings. If we did look at open it up to private properties, we still come to the conclusion of what's going to be the minimum age for a private property. And of course, if we did expand that to private properties, have a minimum geographics of land. And again, that can also be up in the air as to what we would want to do that. So in order to continue this method of controlling the deer population, an expansion must occur, however subtle or extreme. We know deer are going to continue to populate regardless of deer car collisions and possible disease still creating problems. I've got several pictures with me that I've also forwarded to Robbie over the past for this season showing that they've occurred anywhere from South Cape, Middle Cape to North Cape. So they're, even crashing into some homes. Finally, the deer control method used by our city will and can be successful. Harvesting the deer is a good source of food for lots of people. The city of Cape has had 2 successful hunts regardless of our deer counts. We've had no citizens, no property, no pets, nobody's been injured from any of these hunts. We've had no reports of any unlawful interactions with the citizens or the hunters. Although other types of illegal activity may occur, that's going to be almost inevitable. In regards to possible poaching, again, this city hunt was a success. And again, I believe that it can be done on a larger scale. So, questions?
Should we start down there? I think there
I have a
probably are a
question.
lot of questions.
Thank you. Is it illegal to feed deer in the city of Cape?
Yes. And we do pay a visit to some of the folks that do like to see the animal on the properties. We remind them, that this is an ordinance, it is a citable offense, and that they need to stop. And typically, they stop. They're understanding.
Have you looked at expanding the hunting season?
Well, with this completing the 2nd season, again, at this point, I'm kind of on my own with this. So it's going to take feedback from all of us, looking at where we feel without, just doing a complete cannonball into something. Do we want to just expand it subtly or just jump in full feet? So I'm okay with still continuing subtly, but with more geographical areas, because I think there's quite a few areas that we didn't do this past season. There's 2 particular properties that I know that if we did hunt those areas, it would have to be probably when the school session is out, because it would be close to a school. But again, I don't believe, and Dustin and I have also talked about that, Dustin Zebold, we think that can still be done safely when school's not in session, and we'd still be far enough away. But it would also, I think, give reassurance that there's nobody hunting near the school when it's not a session. So that way, because there are some good areas near a couple of the schools that are quite a bit of acreage. So,
Robbie, do you have any?
It's really more of a comment. We really looked at this first rendition of this is very delicate and really trying to ease in and prove to the city that this could be done in a safe manner. They were success, but success not in numbers. And I'm firmly believing that to really herd out these herds, it is going to take expansion. And quite frankly, after seeing what we've done the last 2 years, I'm in full support of looking at expanding city properties and even looking at minimal 10-acre private residence, but still have to do the training and things that you guys do. I feel like we've proven to the city that we can manage it in a safe and effective manner. But when I'm seeing more deer around where I live, Ty, and that's the reason why I've got dead deer on where I live all the time. And then there's a herd of 15, and now it's a herd of 30, and it's time to do more than what we're doing.
yes, but our deer car collisions, and
Getting worse.
honestly, we're not seeing disease, which is a good thing. Okay. But the deer car collisions is not putting a dent in it. My nuisance officers regularly are picking up, multiple deer and transporting them multiple times a week. It's pretty much something's got to happen. Here's another one where we had actually, I believe the complaint came in from one of our agents, and this one here was right behind Sherwin-Williams. It was a buck. I had to go and put that one down. Here's another one where this buck actually crashed through the front door of the citizen's home in the let's see, wait a minute.
Surprise.
Where's the address? It's laying on the floor. Of 517 South Sprague, and this buck is laying on their floor bleeding inside their residence.
Jeez.
We had another one, buck that crashed through the windows at the business. Robbie, I sent that to you. Not Division of Aging, but Aging Matters. Aging Matters. And again, this one here, this is from Mount Auburn. They're there. And again, it can be safely done. I've looked into a lot just this past week. Chesterfield, Creve Coeur, Mexico, Ladue, Columbia, Camden, and Warrensburg. There are a lot of cities that are doing this with, minimum ages of even 15 years of age, archery hunting on a minimum of even a half an acre in these cities. So it's just a matter of where we feel comfortable, and what would appease, our citizens here. So.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, everybody can remember back to the original conversations around this, and I was as big a skeptic as there was, because the primary focus areas of this hunt have been in Ward 1. I can just tell you from citizens and other people, it hasn't bothered anyone. This has not been an intrusion at all. And so that's the thing that really has surprised me over these years now, the second year of this hunt, is that it is seen favorably by everybody, including the people in the ward where a lot of these areas exist. So, one thing I think we should definitely look into is kind of that sort of doe before buck, buck before doe kind of a concept. See if there's some ways we can find some efficiencies to allow these hunters to actually harvest and really impact the populations. This year was weird. That was some weird weather that we had.
Very much.
But, maybe with a couple little tweaks here and there, we can see some more efficiency in it.
Nate?
I had a question and a comment. One, my question pertained to, do we have the demand for hunters? Did you fill every slot of the available? I know
We
you did
did.
it by time periods and whatnot. So.
Yes. Unfortunately, during this process, and that's why I'm not in uniform now, is I'm actually on light duty. About first month of the process, I had actually broke my arm, so I couldn't get out to actually go ahead and continue meeting with a lot of the hunters. But that was one of the things is a lot of the hunters were frustrated. And again, I understand it because I like hunting as well. And when it's 80 degrees out, typically your lawful hunters just, and I shouldn't say lawful, it's just too hot. You're going to be on a limited time frame to get your animal, cleaned and cooled and properly processed before it spoils. This year, we did have a lot of hunters. They have my phone number. They can contact me. Guys contacting me frequently. And like I said, the biggest thing for them that were hunting weekly was they said, you know what? I saw deer over in that person's yard, but they never crossed the road.
Mhm.
So, and they said, yeah, I could see 5 or 6 does over here. Another gentleman said, hey, I had 6 does or 6 bucks in front of me, but I had to take a doe first.
Mhm.
So they're being ethical about it.
Mhm.
But I think in the same sense, we got to keep it simple. Let's don't make it so hard that we're not able to harvest what we need to help control what we need to do. And, just
Well,
keep it simple.
yeah, I think we definitely I agree with you. We have to expand
If a guy
to
comes in
different
and-
areas. In Ward 6, my area, there are deer out there all the time, and they are so used to people that literally they'll just stand in the middle of the road and
plus-
dare you to go by. It's happened in my neighborhood numerous times.
One of the pluses too, that if we do expand, that we have talked about, that typically if you do expand it, that takes away from less of your unlawful hunters trying to sneak in somewhere and take a pot shot at something.
Mhm.
Therefore, if you have a lawful hunter there, typically they may be doing it by the book like they should be and not just throwing an arrow at something and hoping for the best and trying to get away with something. So therefore, if we do expand it, you have hunters lawfully somewhere, therefore pushing these people that shouldn't be doing what they're doing there. So I think expansion is going to be the key to this.
Yeah, I'd commend, I was going to say my
Oh.
comment, but yeah, I'd commend you and your team's work as well as Dustin before you and what you've done to put this. And I agree with the sentiments of Councilman Guard and that this was a sensitive subject that we ventured into and we dipped our toe in the water. We developed, we beta tested it and we've done it safely and no incidents. And that's great. So we have the processes and we have the safe system put into place. But I agree with what they said already. I would love to hear ways from you and your team as to how we can safely incrementally grow this, because like the jurisdictions or the municipalities that you listed off throughout Missouri, one of the things that we have working in our favor is we have availability of land and open land, and how can we use that to really thin out this population? So I would encourage you to do that, and I would like to see what your proposals are. So thanks.
Well, I think that it seems like there's obvious support on the council to have staff, Dr. Haskin, come back to us with some ideas and proposals, and we'll revisit this again soon.
Okay.
So thanks for it was very comprehensive.
if-
Appreciate that.
If for some reason, if a question comes up, just email me.
Yeah,
I'll
we'll,
get it to you. So,
we'll get
thanks.
questions and
Thank you,
concerns.
Officer Metzger.
All right, thank you.
Metzger.
Next is our consent agenda review. Dr. Haskin.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We have 2 items regarding public safety for tonight and also a public improvement acceptance. First, number 7, the Highway Safety and Traffic Division reimbursement grant for DWI enforcement. And of course, number 8, reimbursement grant for hazardous moving violation enforcement. And number 9, as I mentioned earlier, public improvements, construction to the Baldwin Place Phase 3 subdivision. We are ready to accept those improvements as well. Mayor, that concludes the consent agenda.
All right. Thank you. We will now move into regular session, and we will begin with a call to order and a roll call. Ms. Conrad.
Mr. Bliss?
Here.
Mr. Guard?
Here.
Mayor Kinder?
Here?
Mr. Preston?
Here.
Ms. Randall? Here. Mr. Thomas?
Here.
Ms. Truxell?
Here. All right, thank you. Council, we have an agenda before us. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Mr. Guard, Mr. Preston, any discussion? All in favor then, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, the agenda carries. We have 3 public hearings before us tonight. And I'll just tell, obviously, we have a good crowd. Generally, we will just open each public hearing, ask for comments from the audience, however you might choose to do so. If you would approach the podium and state your name, and you can Fire away. I would say, we generally ask that, audience members, if you've heard one or two audience members, speak to something, and you were gonna say the exact same thing, then maybe you could consider not repeating something. Just an idea. I see we have somebody ready to go. I will first open the public hearing to consider the proposed voluntary annexation of property located at 3101 County Road 620. And we have our first customer. Yes, sir.
Mayor and council, my name is David Limbaugh. I live close to the city, really, so like within yards of the city. I want to address a few major points about this and let some of the others in our group expand on them. We presume that the developers seek annexation so they can access city water, sewers, and streets and reduce their investment burden, which is their right, of course. But we're somewhat operating in the dark because there are few specifics have been unveiled to us at the P&Z. We don't really know, and I'm not sure they know. Mr. Blue can speak to that, but I'm not sure if they know specifically what they want to do in terms of units, and they know what they want to do in terms of zoning, although I'm a little unclear based on some of the communications we've received since that meeting. But we presume they want to maximize the number of units on this small 4.5 acre tract. Some have said up to 100 new residents would be thrust into our, what we consider tranquil neighborhood. Please note that every family in our neighborhood works and does business in Cape Girardeau, and we're all proponents of city growth. But we don't believe that all growth is beneficial to the city. Growth for the sake of growth, we don't believe is advisable. Besides, any benefits must be weighed against potential harm to residents and neighbors. Now, others will provide more detail on some of these items that will cause, we believe, certain harm from the proposed annexation and development, including serious safety concerns and substantially increased traffic. And there are others. But please also consider the limited benefits to city growth that would eventuate if this annexation and development were granted. We live in a place where this development is proposed in a place that is kind of landlocked in terms of future development. We have a bunch of city farms, legacy farms that would be right outside this area. So I can't see this growth, this development leading to further development. And usually you want growth leading to other growth. So I don't see that it would really do that. Also, please keep in mind that this area was originally planned for low density. And we have to assume that that was done under advisement, that was considered. They weighed everything in the area and decided it ought to be low density. And that is not what the developers are proposing. Now, we realize you council members are in a difficult position, having to weigh the competing interests of developers and landowners and consider what's in the best interest of the city. I served on the city council for 8 years, and one of the toughest things I encountered was voting against landowners who were my friends or whose cause I sympathized with, but I didn't believe that I had the legal prerogative to vote the way they wanted me to. That was really tough. But I'd respectfully suggest, in this case, there is no law or rule that dictates your decision in this case. I could be wrong about that, but that's the way I see it. So we're not asking you to bend rules for a group of objecting landowners precisely because we don't believe there is any controlling authority that requires you to grant this request. We believe everyone involved, the developers, we adjoining landowners, and you council members are fine people operating in good faith. I've heard good things about the developer, both developers, and we have no animus. This isn't personal. We hope that if the developers are denied their request, they find more suitable property on which to pursue their plans. But we appeal to you strongly to weigh our heartfelt concerns in making your decision, understanding that we too want what's best for the city, and we have nothing but goodwill for the developers. We just do not want to lose the serenity and security we enjoy in our homes, and we genuinely believe denial of this request will not harm the best interest of this city. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I have a question for staff. I heard the buzzer go off. Is there a 3-minute time limit in this section of our meeting? There is. Okay, I'm not aware, so.
Hi
Mr.
there.
Limbaugh, you got off for easy. So there's a 3-minute time limit, folks.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you.
If you know me at all, I'd much rather continue talking about deer hunting, but that wasn't in the chips for tonight, so. Yeah, I hear you. So my name is Zach Hudson. I live at 2939 Walden Boulevard currently. I'm speaking on behalf of myself and my wife, Jamie. We are both from Cape Girardeau, both Cape Central High School graduates ourselves, and both of our parents and siblings have been and continue to be very involved in all things Cape Girardeau. First off, thank you for your involvement in the City Council and for listening to all of our legitimate concerns. I've spoken with nearly all of the members of our subdivision, many are here tonight, and this entire conflict brings none of us any joy, as it's an awfully uncomfortable situation to be abruptly thrown into. But I'm sure as homeowners and landowners and parents yourself, you can certainly empathize with our situation. With one of our previous homes, Jamie and I experienced worsening traffic, public safety issues due to a nearby newly built multifamily development, and ultimately had to make the difficult decision to move from that area. Being that we're from Cape Girardeau and we're fervent supporters, we did not want to move to Jackson or Gordonville or far out in the county like so many are doing right now. We are very blessed with an opportunity to purchase a beautiful 7 acres. As you know, parcels of this size are very hard to find in the city of Cape or the nearby surrounding county. Our 7 acres abuts this potential development under discussion. We made the decision to purchase this property to build our forever home and raise our daughters based on how the surrounding properties were currently utilized and zoned. I feel my investment as a citizen should be held to the same importance as the investment the developer has made. Due to our previous experiences, we have significant concerns and hesitations regarding this development. Our top concerns are safety and high-density traffic. Traffic in particular would be a huge issue, especially in light of the fact that other multifamily dwellings are also potentially being developed on the same road nearby. These concerns are not only for our subdivision, but also for the directly abutting senior living and memory care assisted living facilities who have graciously sent representatives here this evening. Looking at the map provided to us by the city, created by Community Development on November 28th, 2022, and also on the Cape Vision 2040 future land use map, you guys should have been provided with copies of these. You can see this 4 acres has been assigned a future land use recommendation of low density residential. It makes sense to me that going against this recommendation, and drastically so, should be a difficult, transparent, and rare process, especially in the face of significant opposition. And in highly controversial situations such as this, maintaining the status quo should be the standard. The developers are likely seeking annexation to be able to better justify an R3 or R4 zoning request, allowing them to pack as many units onto the 4 acres as possible. Due to this, our request is that you deny annexation and respect the current future land use recommendation of low density residential. Some proposals may seem to be somewhat palatable on paper, but in situations such as this, common sense must prevail. Please do not allow yourself to be convinced that if you as a member of City Council do not support this development, then you are being anti-growth. This is not the case. Promoting growth simply for the sake of growth without considering the negative consequences is not in the best interest of the City of Cape or its citizens. Thank you all so much for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson. Is there any, yes?
Under the time restraints, I've erased 2 out of 3 lines. So I hope that works out. Thank
sounds
you
like
for
it
this
should.
opportunity. My wife Carol and I were the 3rd buyers out in that neighborhood. And like anyone you would expect, we had reasonable expectations. The size of the lots we knew about, the size of the houses, and the expected large real estate taxes we'd be paying that go to the City of Cape schools. It's all worked out. It's a beautiful neighborhood. We have great and safe neighbors. Even your long-range vision provides that this is a low-density area. So we felt comfortable with that. This held true for 30 years. It's beautiful out there in all directions. Even the church is a good neighbor. Nice brick building and very little traffic. But I've never seen such a bold attack on a neighborhood. Never suspecting that an LLC out of Verona would want to cram 40 housing units into 4.5 acres. Why would they do this? Why would they pollute our neighborhood? There's all kinds of other areas. I guess money, they could build a nice house, live there, or flip it. But don't do what they're doing to our neighborhood. And then be bold enough to say, oh, by the way, we want to use your private road. as some kind of auxiliary exit. That's what they said at PNC. I'll concentrate now on the state statutory provision for annexation. And Greg can tell you, municipal law is not my forte. I do something else. Robbie can tell you. Come on, stop. Robbie can tell you that I primarily represent a lot of banks and troubled loans. I see the dark side. Okay, that's what I do. But some people in the group found the statute. I talked with Greg to confirm that that's what the statute says. He sent back saying, it's really a different statute, but it says the same thing. And your guidance is this: is the annexation reasonable and not or necessary to the proper development of the city? Your crystal ball should be clear on this. It really should be. They tell us that the builder's never taken on a project this size. Any reasonable lender would have requested a business loan. How many people do you expect to get in there? How much occupancy rate do you need to break even and to cash flow? Because if this fails, we've got a scar on the neighborhood. I've seen this happen in a number of other loans where they just have an idea, and in this case, they're trying to do an end run on the county rules about sewage because you can never have enough laterals on 4.5 acres to support 40 units. So they think by annexing, you guys will take care of that problem.
Sir, that was the buzzer.
Pardon me?
The buzzer did go off for your
Okay.
3 minutes.
Can I have a minute from somebody else? Thank you. Is that all right with you?
Is that a rule? Did we get to?
That's how they.
I tell you, if you can have a wrap up.
This is
that
how
would
they
be
do it
great.
in Congress. I didn't. You know.
Making up rules.
You know, I think the city has a surplus of rental units as it is, from what I've read. Our home values are gonna go down when the assessor sees this, and that's gonna reduce our amount of taxes we pay to the city. Security, you cram 40 units into a small area and you can expect some trouble. And traffic, if you've ever been on 620 at 7:30 or 7:45 in the morning, it's bumper to bumper at the roundabout, all the way back to Linwood Baptist Church. And you add another 40 to 80 cars coming out of this proposal, and it's just not gonna be nice.
Okay.
Is this really promoting growth? And that comes down to your statutory ruling. And we don't really have a lot of power here, but we know you do. And we hope you'll take care of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Does someone want to speak for 30 seconds? Is it someone else? Anyone else wanting to speak? Yeah. All right, Ms. Gast,
My name is Jennifer
3 minutes.
Gast. Got it. I live at 265 Misty Hollow Lane. I speak on behalf of my husband, Josh, and myself. I would first just like to thank you all for all of your service, everything that you do for Cape Girardeau. We sure do appreciate all that you do for our community. Like you, we all here. I can speak on behalf of our neighborhood as well. We love Cape Girardeau. We want to see it thrive. We want to see it prosper. We dine in Cape Girardeau. We do business in Cape Girardeau. We see movies in Cape Girardeau. The question in front of us is whether to annex and zone to an R3, R4, the property of 3101 County Road 620. We do not want this. It's like I went to bed one evening and I woke up the next day not knowing that I was going to have to defend my property. I did blow up just so you all could see the property, the said property. This is the view from my driveway. So here is the edge of my driveway. Here is the church, and here is Misty Hollow Lane. And if I can, I'll just.
Thank you. Got it.
Just a couple of things I'd like to talk about. The safety, the plan from what I heard is to put 40 units on this 4.5 acre tract. that's a minimum of 80 people on this small piece of land. I'll be honest, my daughter walks our dog down Misty Hollow, down that little narrow pathway. I will not feel comfortable allowing her to do so any longer. I just won't. She's 11 years old. And so there is a big safety concern. As mentioned before, the traffic is a big concern for us. I know, some of you have children, as a lot of us do. We have to leave our home by a certain time in the morning. Otherwise, we won't make it. A lot of times I'm like, Laurel, let's go. We got to go. We're not going to make it. If it is 1 to 2 minutes past when we are supposed to leave, that traffic is backed up past Linwood, the Linwood entrance there, and it's just brutal. So, traffic is already backing up. It's already bad. With the Ferguson group now wanting to put apartments just down the ways a little bit, I can't even imagine what that traffic will look like now. I can only imagine that it's going to be bad. The other thing that I know that we have spoken about is truly that the only ones that might benefit from this would be Mr. Blue Deckard. We do not see that this is just going to make a huge difference in the city of Cape. There's nothing to build past Misty Hollow. Everything kind of bottlenecks at our street. So thank you very much. And I just ask that maybe you put yourself in our shoes, and how would you like having 40 units of something right there in your backyard? Thank you all. Thank you. Yes.
My name's Blue Deckard. I live in 90 Birdsong Drive, Frono, Missouri. Just to fill you guys in on where we were on this, we started looking at this property back in 2022. It wasn't even for sale, wasn't listed. We talked to the person that had to own the property, which anyone else in the world could have done. We approached him. He said he was willing to sell the property. We went into contract on the property back in the fall of 2022. When we did that, we started meeting with the city immediately. We met with Ryan Shrimplin, city planner, city staff. The fire department was there. The police department was there. After looking at the project we proposed, we tweaked it, and they felt that R4 made the most sense, especially considering that it was the property next to it had already been zoned back in the day, R4, and then property across the street is already zoned commercial 1. So the city came to us and said that's what makes the most sense for this property. So then we started tweaking our plans to meet what the city was going to recommend to the planning and zoning. We're not trying to attack a property here. We just bought a piece of property. We went to the city and we said, what makes the most sense for you guys? And then we're going to tweak that to meet the needs. The development we had planned, we're looking at townhouses, condos, initially to rent, and then probably most likely later on to sell as condos. Again, we don't have a lot of specifics because we can't spend a lot of money making plans until we know what this property is going to be zoned. So that's where some of the unknowns are for us. So at the very least, we're asking you guys at the very least that if you're not willing to zone this R4, then just deny the application for annexation, and then we'll just revisit it and maybe move on to a different property or sell it or something. But we ran our numbers, we ran our projections, and building one house on 4.5 acres right there for us just doesn't make sense. So that's kind of where we're at on everything. I would like to address at the last meeting, at the planning and zoning meeting, I kind of got, it was kind of portrayed that I'm an outsider here. First of all, I'm the superintendent of the Holcomb Schools, so that's right in Cape. Work with Cape City, Cape Schools quite a bit. I've also been a developer and a builder in Cape Girardeau as well. The last 7 years, we built 15 homes in the city of Cape Girardeau. We've done 4 renovations. Overall, our projects have infused about $8 million into the city of Cape Girardeau. Over that same 7-year period, I look back at our records, we've given the city of Cape Girardeau around $126,000 in permit fees, utility payments, and whatnot. And also, we have infused, tens of thousands of dollars into the city with sales tax on the projects we build. So like them, I don't live in the city of Cape Girardeau, but I'm not an outsider to the city of Cape Girardeau either. So, but that's our request. Like I said, at the very least, we're asking that If you don't feel that zoning at R4 is in the best interest of the city, we ask that you just deny the petition for annexation and we'll move on. So.
Okay, thank you. That was my question for you, Mr. Decker, but you made that clear. All right, thank you.
Hi there, I'm Sarah Nowicki Gamati. I live at 450 Deer Creek Lane in Cape. I just wanted to comment on something that Mr. Deckard had mentioned. He had mentioned that the properties right next to it are already R4 and Commercial 1. When we're talking R4, we're not talking another apartment building. Where the building right next to it is a residential care facility. So it houses mostly memory care patients. And then the next building over, of course, is more the assisted living. And so when we're talking about a memory care unit, that's not similar to a multiple unit apartment complex. And this is a special population of people. We don't want to subject them to being next to 40, 80 potential new neighbors. Also, the C1 across the street, we're currently looking just at a veterinary hospital. It's not like it is a gas station where cars are running in and out all day. And so, yes, there's C1 and R4, but we really need to look at what type of buildings and what type of businesses and are already there in terms of staying in continuity with the type of facilities that are currently in the area. That's all.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak?
Bonnie Coy Svensson, and I actually live on Price Drive. Dan Preston is my ward. Sir, I'm a horticulturalist, and knowing that these people live on, a small amount of acreage, when I did the math, and an acre is 42,560 square feet, you're proposing about eight-ish per acre, 8 units per acre. So they're going to be McMansions, I'm assuming, or something along that line.
No, they're just going to be townhouses.
It's still
Ma'am,
very.
I tell you what, if you could just
It's
direct
sorry,
comments
sorry.
to us. Yeah.
It's very high density, and I'm going to always be a proponent of the nursery industry, and I don't see that there's going to be a whole lot of way for these people in these developments will be able to plant a whole lot around their yards. And with this, I know where Robbie lives. I live very close as well. And I mean, the average home is now probably on a 6,000 square foot lot or higher. You go back to like the 70s and you're talking a 10,000 lot or higher. So that's what bothers me. I feel for these people because that's very high density. And I feel for the plants that won't be bought. So, and my deer issue.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else to speak? All right, seeing none, then I will close this public hearing. We do have 2 more public hearings. If anyone, we can pause for a moment if anyone wants to leave after this issue. I'm trying to help.
Mayor,
Yeah.
Mayor, if I might, we will not be voting.
We are not voting on this issue
anything
tonight. This issue, we've now heard.
We will
all
not be voting.
Correct, thank you.
When will we vote? That's what the
Great. Well,
question.
this issue goes back to the Planning and Zoning Committee first. They have tabled it for now and they will take it back up. So thank you all for your attendance. We're just officially pausing. I don't know what is that up? Okay. Okay, thank you all very much. Thank you. Next, we have I will open the public hearing to consider a request to rezone property located at 2530 Marsha Kay Drive from R1, Single Family Suburban Residential District, to NC, Neighborhood Commercial District. Is there anyone to speak on that issue? Please come forward.
Appreciate the time in advance. Thank you, folks. If I could pass these out real quick.
And would you share your name,
Don't
please?
start my 3 minutes.
Yeah, be sure to share your name when you.
Oh, sorry.
That's good.
Once again, thanks. I'm Jeff Gibson, 2530 Marsha Kay is the property that I own. And the property was built originally as a church. And I don't know how old the original building is, but there was a building added to that in 1969. The property is currently an R1 zoning. R1 zoning is, and my goal here is for the committee to see that R1 is not an appropriate zoning for this building. I have over 6,000 square foot of commercial property here in two different structures on a little bit more than half an acre. R1 is primarily for single family detached dwellings, and single family, we've got the areas that allows me to work in with an R1 zoning is things like golf courses, public parks, playgrounds, recreational facilities, a police or fire station, elementary and middle schools. Those are the options, the very limited options that I have at the present time with the current zoning. I attached, just in case there's any question in regard to my interest in the community, I attached a couple pictures for you folks to see. You can see what the original structure looked like when I bought it back in 2007. And then you can see what we've done to the building to update it, upgrade it, and to enhance the neighborhood. And we continue to do that. Several points that I'd like to make. It's my understanding that I'm currently paying property taxes based on the fact that it's a commercial structure. I don't have access to any city services such as trash or anything that would go along with a standard R1 rating. The city has provided, there's three different zonings for commercial. You've got C1, C2, and then NC, or neighborhood commercial. That zoning is for people in my situation where C1 and C2 doesn't seem appropriate, and I agree with that. So the NC rating gives me some options, whether I keep the building or whether I sell the building. It gives me some options in which I can use the building. Right now, I'm going to be hard pressed to sell it as a church. I'm going to be hard pressed. I'm not going to sell it as a residential building. No one's going to buy 6,000 square feet that's not designed to be residential and buy it and use it as a residential building. The precedence has been set. Recent rezonings, 871 Lexington Avenue, 618 Bellevue Street, 401 Southwest End Boulevard, 825 South Ellis Street. Was that the bell already?
It was.
Oh my goodness. I don't have anybody's minute to steal. But I will say this, that the precedent has already been set. There is and I need to mention this real quick, and I'll try to get out of the way. Some of the pushback I'm getting has to do with traffic, and that's from folks that aren't even on the street. They don't even have access to Marsha Kay. We have C2 zoning on Fairview Street itself. There's already C2 zoning on Fairview, and there's C2 zoning at the end of Marsha Kay. So the precedent has been set not only there, but all around the neighborhood. There's C1 and C2 zonings in residential locations. And I think that the precedent has already been set, and I appreciate the consideration. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
I'm Tom Hamilton. I live at 2450 Fairview. Now, he's talking about the zoning. Originally, he had a special use permit to be a church. It was not to be anything else but a church. Now, just because they put another building on it, which they probably weren't supposed to, doesn't make it right now that they want to get it changed. Now, also, if they change this, then why wouldn't they want to change one between them and the southern? It would make no sense not to. And he talks about where it's zoned different on Kings Highway. It's because you all changed all the zoning carte blanche about 8 years ago when you made 200 feet back from Kings Highway commercial or semi-commercial. We had to fight then because you all it wasn't properly done, but regardless, just because there's others been changed doesn't make it right to change this. Now, the main issue will be whatever you put in there. Right now, they may have a whole bunch of lights that light up the whole neighborhood. Now, it's true that we don't live next to it, but the people across the street from us do. And there's a clear view. Right now, at night, their house is lit up. This would only make it worse. So, whatever, just because they have something there now that shouldn't even legally be there, doesn't make it right to change it to their benefit. So that's why I'm against it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else to speak on this issue?
Thank you. My name is Martha Hamilton, and I too live at 2450 Fairview. I will say that even though there have been special use permits for churches that were changed in the past, the one at the corner, I believe it's Karen and Cape Rock Drive, which was previously a Lutheran church, that was tried to be changed to commercial, and it was not changed, and that property stayed vacant for several years until another church was found to buy it. It's now, I think, Bethel Baptist. So there's a precedent both ways. The problem, of course, is the special use permits that have been granted in the past can affect current owners. And we've been in our property for almost 40 years. We've done a lot of improvements. I know that traffic is bad, and it's especially bad at that intersection and the intersection across at where Hopper Road comes in. If you look and see the number of accidents that happened there, especially since the speed limit along Kings Highway is 45 from Cape Rock on, that was changed a few years ago. So anyway, I am opposed to the rezoning.
Thank you.
My name is Leon Book. I live at 2460 Fairview Place, and we've lived next door to the Hamiltons for 36 years. I join my neighbors in objecting to this request. And I'll just state this. To me, the most compelling piece of evidence in all of this against this zoning request comes from members of the Planning and Zoning Commission themselves, whom you appointed to their post based on their solid qualifications to make judgments about such requests as the one we're discussing tonight. They heard the seller's presentation and our neighbors' counter arguments and voted unanimously without dissent to reject the request. Now, I would paraphrase the concluding statement of a Mr. Gary Hill, whom I don't know. He wrote on online comments in a section of a recent issue of the Southeast Missourian, reporting on this particular issue. He deserves credit for the point he made, that the purpose of the P&Z Commission is to protect and preserve the quality of residential neighborhoods, not help real estate speculators sell their properties. Please sustain the unanimous recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Committee to deny the request.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else to speak on?
Hi, my name is Maureen Duffy, and I've lived at 907 North Cape Rock Drive for over 30 years. My husband and I have many concerns about the rezoning of this property for the following reasons. The first being safety. During the time that we've lived at this residence, there have been 5 to 7 robberies at the Bank of America, which was located on the corner of Kings Highway and Cape Rock Drive. One of the robberies involved a robber being loose in our neighborhood. I was unaware of the robbery and in my garage when an officer surprised me and told me to go in the house and lock the doors. I stayed in my house all afternoon while watching the police scour the neighborhood. During another robbery, the getaway driver was parked at St. Andrew's parking lot at the same time that Saxony High School was in session. In addition to the many bank robberies, a dentist office located on Kings Highway was robbed twice that I know of. The last robbery was about 1.5 years ago. After that robbery, there were 5 police officers behind my back fence, right next to the property wanting to be rezoned, searching for the stash bag of the robber. We've certainly seen enough crime from businesses over the course of the 30 years we've lived here. At this point, we sincerely question whether having a business located right in the middle of a neighborhood is wise or reckless. In our view, it's reckless. Traffic, as everybody knows, traffic on Marsha Kay has gotten busier over the years with people cutting through to from Cape Rock Drive to Kings Highway and back. Marsha Kay is also a residential neighborhood with families and children. When we moved to Cape Rock, the property behind us was a church, then sold to another church. And that's when it was sold to our present owners, and that had one church, and it seemed to be a business. They've been good neighbors in that they've improved the buildings and property and did nothing to infringe upon nor bother any of the surrounding neighbors. Importantly, they also never caused a big uptick in car traffic, nor foot traffic going in and out of their property. With rezoning, my husband and I have great concerns of what kind of business will be allowed to buy this property. Will it be a bank, another dentist office, a business that attracts even more traffic to Marsha Kay, which is a really narrow street? At this point, we have little hope of any kind of oversight if it is rezoned as to what kind of business and how it's going to affect all of the families and children in that area. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else to speak? Yes.
My name is Les Lindy. I live at 2528 Marsha Kay Drive, which is right next door to the property. I have a question, and I don't know whether you could answer it or not, but I think it's a legit question. If it was zoned commercial, does that mean it has to have sidewalks for pedestrian traffic?
We can get Mr. Shrimplin, I think would be a great person to answer that question. And actually, when we discuss it down and after the consent agenda, this item is going to be up for discussion after the consent agenda, and we'll address that question then
Okay.
with our city staff.
Another question is, can the city council approve the city to put in a traffic monitor to see how much traffic is on that street?
Currently, well, traffic studies do happen from time to time when.
No,
when
a
warranted.
car counter. You know, they run over a little black hose and it counts the cars that go up and down the street.
Yeah, well, we do.
Is that,
The only
Oh,
thing
you
we
mean
would-
a running, a constant installed kind of device, you mean?
no, you have the cable.
traffic
It's a
study.
traffic study.
Right.
It's a
Traffic study.
Right.
Yeah.
That's done when, there's a problem that's.
Yes.
I've lived there
deemed-
for 70 years and I've never seen one, or my family has, and I've never seen one put on that street.
I don't know that one's been requested.
That's correct.
So that's how
And there's no speed limit sign there. We get tractor trailer trucks, dump trucks full of dirt, there's no kids playing signs on that street. And the people across the street from me, which are new, they have 2 kids, and the people that's to the left of me, they have 5 kids.
Well, I would say these kinds of issues, if there's some area, neighborhood improvements or signage that you all think would be helpful, that can be addressed or requested or, taken up at a later time.
Well, you see my point in all this, don't you? More
No.
traffic on that street is
Gotcha.
not going to be a good thing. I have no qualms against the current owner, but I really don't want to see it go commercial unless you're going to take the whole street and make it all commercial. You do that and I'd be happy.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
I'll write that down. Anyone else care to speak? I think we'll wrap it up with you. Anna.
Hello, my name is Patricia Book, and I too live on Fairview. Thank you first for letting us come and voice our concerns over the proposed rezoning of Marsha Kay. I'd like to start out by referring to the definition of neighborhood commercial. The neighborhood commercial district is intended to provide small, convenient retail, commercial services, and offices that provide convenience goods or personal service primarily to the people residing in the neighborhood. I would then point out that the neighborhoods along and surrounding Marsha Kay already have significant and varied convenient retail services available to us. We have the convenience store at the corner of Marsha Kay and Kings Highway. We have Food Giant a few hundred yards to the north. We have a pharmacy shop, nail salons, oil change facilities, jewelry stores, chiropractor, furniture store, bank, and the list continues. All the right along Kings Highway from Cape Rock north a few hundred feet. In fact, we have often commented that once we get onto Kings Highway, which has become increasingly difficult in the 36 years we have lived there, you can reach virtually any place you need to go in the city within 15 minutes. The definitions of what could be allowed to develop along Marsha Kay is just too broad to be comfortable. We have all the services that we need. We do not need to risk bars, marijuana stores, etc. They are already easily reached as well, but they are not in our back door or our front yard. It is not worth the risk to destroy the safety and quality of life of the residential areas of Marsha Kay, Terry Hill, Poppy Lane, parts of Cape Rock, and Fairview Drive. Again, thank you for listening and hope you allow our residential neighborhoods to continue as they are. Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. And I will now close this public hearing. And our third public hearing for the evening is to consider a proposed amendment to Chapter 30 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri regarding marijuana facilities, medical marijuana facilities, and personal cultivation of marijuana. Is there anyone to speak to this issue tonight? Seeing none, I will close that public hearing then. We have a consent agenda before us. Mr. Young, would you please read that?
Bill 2301, an ordinance amending Chapter 30 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri by changing the zoning of property located at 2854 Cape LaCroix Road in the city and county of Cape Girardeau, Missouri from R1 to R4. Bill 2301, an ordinance amending Chapter 30 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri by changing the zoning of property located at 2854 Cape LaCroix Road in the city and county of Cape Girardeau, Missouri from R1 to R4. Bill 2302, an ordinance imposing a sales tax at a rate of 3% on intangible personal property retail sales of adult use marijuana sold in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri, and providing for the submission of proposal authorizing such tax to qualified voters of the city at a general municipal election to be held on April 4th, 2023, directing the city clerk to provide notice of said election. Bill 2302, an ordinance imposing a sales tax at a rate of 3% on all tangible personal property retail sales of adult use marijuana sold in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri, providing for the submission of proposal authorizing such tax to the qualified voters of the city at a general municipal election to be held on April 4, 2023, and directing the city clerk to provide notice of said election. Bill 2303, a resolution authorizing an application to the Missouri Department of Transportation for the Highway Safety Program grant for DUI enforcement and authorizing the city manager to execute all necessary grant documents. Bill 2304, a resolution authorizing an application to the Missouri Department of Transportation for the Highway Safety Program grant for hazardous moving and violation enforcement and authorizing the city manager to execute all necessary grant documents.
All right, thank you, council. We have a consent agenda before us. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor of the consent agenda, then please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That agenda carries. We have one item removed from the consent agenda. It is the approval of the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation to deny a request to rezone property located at 2530 Marsha Kay Drive from R1 Single Family Suburban Residential District to NC Neighborhood Commercial District. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Oh, forgive me, I messed up the procedure. Okay, well, it's on the table. Mr. Shrimplin, would you like to come forward?
It's
I'm just anxious to talk more about this.
Good evening, everyone. To answer the question about sidewalk, the code only requires sidewalk to be installed at the time street improvements are made or development or redevelopment of the property occurs. So there's some leeway in interpretation there as far as development, redevelopment, but normally it would not be required to be put in unless it fell into that category. And even then, there are some exceptions if there's not a sidewalk within 500 feet, for example, or if there's topographical constraints, the city staff could waive the requirement for the sidewalk. But the mere, rezoning of the property to commercial would not trigger the developer or the property owner to put a sidewalk in.
Actually, at this time, I guess we do need to allow any other public comments regarding this issue. If there's anyone from the audience now that it's on the table, if you'd like to.
They all left,
Okay,
Mayor.
they all left. All right. I have a question real quick. Can you just speak to well, you mentioned sidewalks. I was going to ask too about lighting that different requirements from R1, especially a facility like this that might lighting allowances that might occur with NC. I think that was a concern that people expressed.
So Chapter 25, the city code contains all what we call the development regulations. So that's things like parking and landscaping and lighting and fences and signs and all that. So we've got a section on lighting that applies citywide. It's not based on a zoning district, but we've got certain, light levels, thresholds that cannot be exceeded. There's certain requirements if you're replacing lighting, once you replace so much percentage of the lighting, then you've got to get a lighting permit. And then as part of that, you have to submit what's called a photometric plot that shows the light levels throughout the property. So that gets reviewed by the staff and the permit's issued then if it meets those standards.
I guess my question is, I think the concern would be if this was zoned NC and a more retail focused kind of facility, came in, could potentially more lighting be brought in than perhaps is allowed under R1? Is that?
No, it's,
Okay.
again, the property owner can come in and apply for a permit to get lighting regardless of the use.
Okay.
So they would just have to meet the standards.
Technically, Ryan, with this property, if it remains R1, it's not to say they could not come and apply for a special use permit to change the usage, correct?
Well, there's only so many things that are allowed under a special use permit in R1. And then just to address the question on the church, there's Supreme Court case law that basically said, places of worship cannot be zoned out. So essentially, our zoning code is silent on churches and places of worship. They're allowed anywhere in the city in any zoning district. So I don't know about, history on a special use
So
permit.
technically, it doesn't matter that it was allowed to be in R1 because they're allowed to be anywhere.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Right.
And other certain like police.
What's that?
There's other things that are allowed in R1 too.
Right. That are exempt from zoning. So that's good to,
Yeah, I'd be happy to go through the
No.
list of permitted
I
special uses if
I
you
was
like.
just curious about the special use permit. I personally, I grew up on Broadview and our house was rezoned probably 3 different times in 30 years. So, to where you couldn't even refinance your house because it was commercial and not residential. So I am sensitive of the church and that. Marsha Kay is trouble. It's odd because you have a residential house on Marsha Kay that is in commercial, and then you have a church that's in residential. So it's different, and you're really getting into that buffering commercial and residential. So anyway.
Council, any other questions? No? Okay, thank you, Mr. Shrimpton. Motion's on the table. So we are voting, this is one of those weird ones. We're voting to deny the request to rezone. So a yes vote means it stays R1, basically. Correct. Okay. To deny the request to change. Yes. All right. All those then in favor of approving the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation to deny this request to rezone property at 2530 Marsha Kay Drive from R1 to NC, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries then. That request to rezone is denied. All right, moving on, then we have new ordinances, and I will just remind the public, just as I stumbled through a minute ago, I will read the ordinance, and if anyone wishes to speak to it, you may do so, and then we will take it up as the council. First, we have Bill 2305, an ordinance accepting easements from St. Andrew Lutheran Church in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. First reading. Mr. Pulley.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Dr. Askin. This ordinance is for the Kings Highway crosswalk. This is converting an existing easement from utilities to a sidewalk. We have utilities under the easement currently, and they're wanting to change this to a sidewalk on top of the easements. This is going to be funded through a TAP grant itself, and the staff does support this ordinance.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to comment? All right, seeing none, staff, council, is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Mr. Willis, Mr. President, discussion? All in favor, then, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion carries. Bill number 23-06, an ordinance approving the record plat of Stevenson subdivision, first reading. Mr. Shrimplin.
This is a record plat to combine two lots and part of another lot into one lot so that it can be built on. If they were to build the structure without doing that, they'd be crossing a lot line, and the code does not allow that.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to comment? All right, seeing none, then, is there a motion to approve, council?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. President, Mr. Thomas, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving Bill number 23-06, approving the record plat of Stevenson subdivision, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion carries. Bill number 23-07, an ordinance amending Chapter 30 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri, regarding regarding marijuana facilities and cultivation of marijuana. First reading. Mr. Shrimplin.
So a few years ago, Missouri voters approved a constitutional amendment to legalize medical marijuana. And part of that involved the establishment of what were called medical marijuana facilities. So there's several types: cultivation facility, a dispensary, infused products manufacturing facility, et cetera. And so pursuant to that, a few years back, the city approved an amendment to the zoning code to establish regulations for medical marijuana facilities. Fast forward to this past November, Missouri voters approved another amendment to the Constitution to legalize recreational marijuana. So pursuant to that, we're now establishing regulations for what the amendment calls marijuana facilities, which are a broader category. It includes medical and non-medical marijuana. So same categories of facilities, except they're comprehensive is the term. So an existing medical marijuana facility can apply to the state to get a comprehensive license, which would allow them to sell both. And then there's a separate subcategory called micro-business facilities that are for certain applicants that meet certain income limits, or if they have a disability card from the Department of Veterans Affairs. So this is just to establish the exact same regulations. There's a table in the current medical marijuana ordinance, facilities ordinance, that establishes distances from then existing elementary or secondary schools, child daycare centers, or churches. That distance is 1,000 feet, except for a dispensary. The council lowered that distance to 500 feet. But as far as the definitions and the method of measurement and all that, it basically mimics the language in the amendment, the state amendment. With that one change. And then for dispensaries, we had the ability to restrict the hours of operation. Initially, we restricted it from the hours of 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., but we've learned recently that some of the existing dispensaries are open as late as 9 p.m. So as part of this change to add in the recreational component, we're modifying hours of operation for dispensaries to go to 9 p.m. And then
Is
the
there-
other part of that, of course, is the personal cultivation of marijuana, which is, permitted accessory use in any zoning district as authorized by the state.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak to this issue? Okay, hearing none, then, council, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Gard, Mr. Bliss. I have a quick question. Maybe this is for Mr. Young. If we were not to approve some of these changes, the city could get sued very easily and lose? Is that the?
As Mr. Trimplin indicated, most of what the city is doing is what the amendment that was passed is authorizing. So we're mimicking that, except that one exception that Ryan mentioned, where we're reducing the
hours.
The hours and the fee from 1,000 to 500. That is what we passed last time.
Right. Okay, thank you. Any discussion? All right, hearing no further discussion, all those in favor then of bill number 23-07, an ordinance amending chapter 30 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Cape, Missouri regarding marijuana facilities and cultivation of marijuana, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion carries. Bill number 23-08, an ordinance amending chapter 17 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri regarding the decriminalization of marijuana. First reading.
Thank you again, Mayor. I hope this is the last one. This is also regarding Amendment 3, where the Missouri voters passed this back in November. This is to change Chapter 17 of the ordinances, where we decriminalize marijuana. This is what we have to do to be in accordance with Amendment 3 and the statutes.
I did have one question. I think I know the answer, but decriminalizing it, however, does not mean that someone can drive under the influence, correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Or sell.
Or sell.
Yeah,
This
without
is-
being from a licensed dispensary, obviously.
Correct. This is under the recreational statutes, what the Missouri voters passed in November, which allows adults to purchase the recreational marijuana that changed from the medical to recreational. We needed to change our ordinances to mirror the Missouri ones to make sure we were in alliance with them. So you cannot operate motor vehicles under the influence. You're not going to be able to drive while using these items.
Can't be underage.
Correct. You must be an adult to do this.
But the only way you can sell it is through a dispensary, right?
You're going to have this dispensaries, yes. in
Or
Cape Girardeau.
license. Yeah, that's what it says. So it's legalizing or decriminalizing the use of and purchase of from a licensed dispensary essentially. or
We just did
possession.
prohibition, but with marijuana. With the repeal of prohibition.
Yes, sir. You have to have a license from the state of Missouri to actually dispense and sell the medical and
Historical.
recreational marijuana.
100 years.
Is there anyone from the audience who?
100 years.
Ignoring that completely. Is there anyone from the audience who wishes to speak to this issue? All right. Council, is there a motion then to approve Bill number 23-08, an ordinance amending Chapter 17 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Cape Girardeau regarding the decriminalization of marijuana?
So moved. Second.
Mr. Preston, Mr. Guard. Any further discussion then from council? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor of Bill 23-08, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. And lastly, Bill number 23-09, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute the Jefferson Swimming Pool Operations Agreement with the Cape Girardeau Public School District in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. First reading. Mr. Gannon.
Good evening. What you have in front of you is the operations agreement for the Jefferson Swimming Pool. It's a cooperative facility that will be operated between the City of Cape and the Public School District. So is there any questions I can answer?
I would ask the public if there's any questions or concerns anyone wants to express. All right, hearing none, then council, is there a motion to approve Bill 23-09?
I'll make a motion to.
Ms. Randall, Mr. Thomas. Okay, I would just state it, it seems like between the city and the school district, every conceivable issue has been worked out in this agreement. I know it's taken a long time, but it looks very well thought out. And I think, the whole community will appreciate that. Sharing a facility with it is always complicated, but seems like this is pretty straightforward and it's gonna work. And we have precedent. I mean, the park department has been partnering with the school district for quite a while for another pool, so.
Yeah, I just want to commend Doug and Penny and your team. I know you guys and the school district, I know you guys did tease through every element of this and it's well thought out, good compromises. And it's just going to be that along with the things that are yet to come that are going to be announced, the developments around that area and the enhancements of Capitol Hall, or not Capitol Hall, Shawnee and the Southside Farms and everything. It's going to be an incredible remake of that area. And this is a step in that way. And I just kudos to you guys and all that you guys have done in that process. So.
It's going to be great down there. And this agreement, we had several months of dialogue back and forth with the school district about this. So we feel like this is fair and balanced and agreeable by both parties.
Great. Any other comments, questions? Okay, hearing none then. All those in approval of bill number 23-09, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion carries. Lastly, we have several appointments. First is 2 appointments to the Town Plaza Community Improvement District Board of Directors. It has been recommended that Scott Campbell and Jack Ford be nominated to those or appointed to that board. Is there a motion for that approval?
So moved. Second.
Mr. Guard, any discussion? All right, then all in favor then of appointing Scott Campbell and Jack Ford to the Town Plaza Community Improvement District Board of Directors, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion carries. Second appointment, there was one appointment needing to be made to the Public Library Board of Directors through a vote of council. That nominee selected is Ed Thompson. Is there a motion to approve Ed
So
Thompson?
moved.
Second.
Mr. Guard, Mr. Thomas, any discussion? All right, although then is, all those in favor of appointing Ed Thompson then to the Public Library Board of Directors, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion carries. Lastly, in our meeting, we have a time when community members can come forward and address anything that is not on the agenda. Is there anyone? There have been a lot of things on the agenda, so if it's on the agenda, you had your chance. But you have 3 minutes to come forward and share. Yes.
Andrew Strauss, I submitted it. I don't know if you got it up there or not.
I do. I have your name. And your,
Is this the time for it?
yes.
Okay. First thing, last session or so, there was something about, all this homeless advocates. So I was kind of thinking about it. I'm like, okay, why doesn't the city and the council, contact someplace like Union Gospel Mission, Fort Worth, Texas, and find out how they do things and then put it on the ballot for the citizens to decide if they want to fund a homeless center for inclement weather or something like that. And that way, if it's on the ballot, no one's coming in browbeating you guys, and you say, hey, if it was the citizens of Cape that decided, okay? And if I know someone knows more about a disability advocate, but if a homeless advocate, they could petition and put it on the ballot again if it fails. Can I say my second one? Or
Yeah, keep going.
It's about the training initiative I have. I don't need this back, but I could pass it around. I'll be giving out the invitation. It's going to be May 26th, 2 to 4 p.m. at the public library. All right, we're in the room for it. Pass it around. I'll get the invites out. The people here in the surrounding counties and do my presentation.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry, is that
That's it. I'll
Okay.
just say, you can make notes of that if you want, and
Okay.
that is the only copy I have right now.
Oh, well, I'll get it back to you.
Oh,
after the-
okay, all right, thank you.
All right, thank you. I do have other names of people who did pre-register. I believe most of them have left. Is Deborah Clifton here? Okay. Or Elena Perryman? Okay. All right, then. I think this concludes then other business. Is there, we do not have a closed session tonight. Is there a motion to adjourn? Mr. Bliss, Mr. Preston, any discussion? All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.